Well, the new album is called Evolution, and it's kind of, in reference to everything that's going on, really. The evolution of electronic music as much as the general revolution and evolution of, what we see every day with a multimedia world. I'm really inspired by everything I see and everything that I experience, so it just made a lot of sense to basically come all together in the end and basically call it Evolution. There are quite a few people featured on the album, but there is nobody really that I have in the back of my head that I sort of like need to work with. It's like more, I write a piece of music and then I feel like, oh, it would be good if that vocalist could make an interpretation of it. But it's not really that I'm running around and say, oh, I have to achieve a collaboration with so-and-so. It's really more about sort of like meeting artists and you have something in common and then those magical creative moments happen, or they don't. Well, I believe just like releasing one track, fair enough. It's like, it's not so difficult to kind of like bang out one thing, but, be consistent. This is something that sort of really shows if you're actually an artist and you have some creativity in you and something to bring across, or if there's just like something where, you had a lucky moment. And I think putting an artist album together, it's the challenge. Well, the reason why we started this whole Evolution touring process is, to make people aware that there is an album coming. Because, at the same time as, there is this constant sort of kind of like every other week a new track is being released by X and Y. Obviously, our idea of actually bringing music closer to our audience is somewhat different. In terms of the production, as an example, I went out to the people who also like produced and designed the whole Muse tour, because I wanted to have something that actually, is not just like different kind of bubbles in the background, but something that actually relates to the theme of the music, to the actual show, and you have a possibility of actually diving into it, not just on the sort of audio side, but also on the visual side, and bring something that sort of, leaves people hopefully speechless. In terms of the production, I'm not involved in this whole technical scenario, because I'm just like, that's not really what I can do. In terms of the whole content, the artistical side of things, and trying to actually really bring something together that sort of is actually, supporting the music. Because, at the end of the day, for me, that's still the main thing. It's the music. I'm playing live. And so, for me, this is the ultimate setup, because I can combine my passion for being a DJ as much with a passion being, a musician, sort of like combining all that, and therefore creating even more intense moments than just basically playing a track that's 8 minutes long and finished. So, I can sort of like go straight into the production and change it so it actually fits much better for the moment when I play it. The Voync Sessions radio show is something that I'm doing for quite some years now, and it is just amazing, and sort of like it airs in so many different places and so many different stations. What I'm trying to do there is basically like to play what, first of all, I think is the best that electronic music has to offer at that moment. Every year we actually release the Voync Sessions mix CD that kind of like features the best tracks, the most influential tracks from that radio show. And because the show is broadcasted in so many different countries, we get a really global feedback. So it's pretty much whatever is on the CD is chosen by a global audience. And so this makes it so special. I remember about like 2 years ago, I pretty much was the first one to actually ever play a track by Artie. And he basically is probably the newcomer of this year. Basically, Artie and myself, we ended up actually like working on 2 tracks together for the upcoming album. And but this again leads back a little bit to kind of collaborations that are interesting and creative rather than just made. Because who would have ever thought that when Artie and myself work together, we actually come up with a drum and bass track? Nobody would have ever guessed that, but it happened. We have sort of like 3 different elements that actually going on right now. There's still the ever so strong going sort of actually core element of what electronic music is, including everything from minimal techno to electro to what people call trance music and all that. Really the music that people that love electronic music are really falling for. Then you have this element that kind of like came up in the last 1.5, sort of like 2 years maybe, that sort of involves a little bit of the kind of like alternative, even to an extent some rock element to it. People like Skrillex and deadmau5 as an example, having this sort of kind of like this crossover edgy alternative potential. And then we have something that people very, very often mistaken as electronic music. This music has nothing to do with us. This is danceable pop music, and I don't want to be related to it. People, you know, that enjoy that top 40 danceable pop stuff, they're not going to the real electronic shows. It's like, you know, they stay in their discotheques and their disco pubs, and this is where they actually enjoy that kind of music, but they're not part of the club culture, and they will never be part of the club culture. So they're not really doing anything good for the electronic music scene. It's like they're doing something good for whatever, but like it has nothing to do with what electronic music is all about or has been all about.